Shabbos Daf Lamed Aleph is mostly Agadata, having discussed at the end of yesterday's Daf how Rabbi Gamliel answered a student who challenged him. The Gemara now discusses several ways in which other Chachamim dealt with people who challenged them. The Gemara will bring the famous story of Hillel and the person who tried to make him upset in order to win a bet, and the three converts who approached Shammai and were sent away, and who approached Hillel and were converted. The Gemara will then expound on a number of subjects showing that fear of heaven is more important than the Torah scholarship, and then the Gemara will go back to our previous Mishnah and teach us what Rabbi Yossi's opinion was in the Mishnah, and did he hold like Rabbi Shimon, did he hold like Rabbi Yehuda, as far as Malchus and Tzichel Gufa. This will take us to the next Mishnah, which discusses why women die in childbirth. The Gemara begins with a brisa which quotes how other Chachamim answered people who started up with them, similar to what we had said at the end of the daf yesterday about how certain Chachamim answered people who asked them questions. So the Gemara here quotes a brisa which has a very famous incident with Hillel. First, the brisa begins and says one should always strive to be as humble as Hillel and should not be a kapdan, should not be strict as Shammai is. And the brisa relates that there were two people who made a bet with each other. One said he bets that the other one will not be able to make Hillel lose his temper. So that one said, all right, he accepted the bet. It was over 400 zuz. So it says it was Friday afternoon and Hillel was washing his hair to get ready for Shabbos. And as he was doing that, so this person went walking around in front of his house and he said, hey, is there a Hillel here? Is there anybody here named Hillel? Pretending in an insulting way as if he did not know who Hillel was. Hillel was the Nasi, the leader of the generation. So Hillel put on his robe and he went out to meet the person, and he said to him, my son, what do you seek? And he said, I have a question to ask. So Hillel said, ask, my son, ask. So the man asked, why is it that the heads of the Babylonians are so elongated? And Hillel said, that's a great question, my son. The reason is because their midwives are not expert and they don't shape the head properly when they are born. Okay, the man went away and he waited a while until Hillel was again in the midst of his Shabbos preparations, and he came back and he said, is there a Hillel here? Is there a Hillel here? Hillel again got dressed and he went out to greet him, and he said, my son, what do you need? And he said, I have a question to ask you. So he said, ask, my son, ask. He said, well, why is it that the eyes of the Tarmonians are long and slit-like? So Hillel said, well, that's a great question, my son. Well, the reason is because they live in a sandy area. Implication being that the slitty eyes keeps the sand out of them. So again, the person went away and he came back when Hillel was again in the middle of his Shabbos preparations, and he said again, is there a Hillel here? Is there anybody here named Hillel? Hillel again put on his robe and he went out to greet him, and he said, my son, what do you seek? And he said, I have a question to ask you. He said, ask, my son, ask. He said, why is it that the Africans have such wide feet? He said, wow, that's a great question. Well, the reason is because they live in swampland. Apparently the idea is that the wide feet helps them from sinking into the mud. So the man said, I have a lot of questions, but I'm afraid to ask. I'm afraid you might become angry with me. So Hillel wrapped his cloak tighter and he sat down with him and he said, any question that you have, feel free to ask. I have all the time in the world. So the person said, are you the great Hillel that they call the Nasi of the Jewish people? And Hillel said, yes. So the person said, if it's true, if you're him, may there not be many like you amongst the Jewish people. Hillel said, why would you say such a thing? He said, because of you, I have lost 400 zuz. And he told him about the bet that he made. So Hillel said a person should always be careful and control his disposition so that he's calm in all situations, and he wouldn't end up making a bet like that, because it's better for you to lose 400 zuz that you could have gained than 400 zuz that you have to pay out, in order that Hillel should not become angry. Now, these are not necessarily meant to be understood as simple stories. The Maharsha gives an allegorical explanation of the entire incident. Now, the brisa continues, and it says three stories about Hillel and Shammai who were approached by people to convert them under unusual circumstances, and how Shammai rejected them, but Hillel was able to accept them. So the three stories are as follows. Once a guy who came before Shammai, and he said, how many Torahs do you Jews have? And Shammai said, we have two, Torah Shabiksav, the written Torah, and Torah Shabapeh, the oral one, which provides instructions. So the guy said, I trust that Torah Shabiksav is from Shamayim. I do not trust that Torah Shabapeh is. I don't rely on it. I want you to convert me to Judaism on the condition that you're only going to teach me Torah Shabbat. So Shammai shouted at him, and he sent him away with a scolding. So the guy came before Hillel, and he said the same thing, and Hillel converted him. So after he was converted, he came to learn. So Hillel, the first day, taught him the Aleph Beis. Then the second day, he taught him the Aleph Beis again, but this time he taught him the letters differently than before. So the guy said, "What are you talking about?" Well, he was no longer a guy. The Ger said, "What are you talking about? Yesterday you said differently." So Hillel said, so you have to rely on me to even know which letter is which. So then you definitely have to rely on me that there is a Torah Sheba'al Peh, and it is oral instruction, which makes the written Torah have any meaning. Otherwise, there's nothing that you could say for it. Okay, that was the first incident. The second one is that a guy came to Shammai and he said, "Convert me and teach me the entire Torah, but only while I'm standing on one foot." Marsha understands this to mean that he wanted to know that there was one principle that summed it up. So Shammai pushed him away with the ruler that he was holding in his hand. Shammai was an evaluator of the value of structure, so he walked around with a measuring stick. Now Shammai was saying to him, you can't have the entire Torah standing on one foot. It's got to be standing on a firm, solid foundation. So the guy then went to Hillel, and Hillel converted him. And then he said to him, the entire Torah is that which is hateful for you, you should not do to somebody else. That is in the entire Torah. Everything else is an explanation and an elaboration of that principle. Now go learn. And then the third story that happened was that a guy came to, he was walking behind a Beis Medrash, and he heard the teacher teaching the students about the Big Kahuna, the Choshen, the Ephod, and he heard about how beautiful and wonderful these things are, so he stopped and he asked them, who is this for? So they said, it's for the Kohen Gadol. So he decided he wants to be a Kohen Gadol so that he could be able to wear it also. So he went to Shammai and he said, convert me on condition that I can become Kohen Gadol. So Shammai pushed him away with the measuring stick that he held in his hand. So he came to Hillel. Hillel converted him. And then Hillel said to him, I'd be happy to make you, well, he didn't say I'll be happy to, but he said, if you would like to become a Kohen Gadol, you first have to learn. You can't be king unless you first learn the rules of the kingdom. So go learn. So the man went, the convert went, and he learned all about the Torah. He learned Mikra, and he came to the pasuk that says, Hazar HaKarev Yumas. A non-Kohen who approaches is punishable by the death penalty. So he said, well, look at this. So he went and he asked, hello, who's this stranger? Who's this non-Kohen that it refers to? So it says, even David Melech Yisrael is included in that. So he said to himself, Kal v'chaimer, if a regular Jew who's called B'nai B'cher Yisrael is called my firstborn son, can't become a Kohen. And if he tries to, he suffers the death penalty. So a ger like me certainly would suffer the death penalty and would not be allowed to become a Kohen. So he went back to Shammai. He said, Shammai, you should not have just sent me away like that. You should have explained to me that I can't possibly become a Kohen Gadol because a ger can't be a Kohen. And then he went back to Hillel and he said, may blessings come upon your head through, even though I now understand that I cannot be a Kohen, you brought me close to the Shechina and I became a Jew thanks to you. So the Gemara quotes the end of the Brisa, which relates that these three Gerim met each other and they discussed their respective stories. And they said, the sternness of Shammai almost pushed us out of the world of Avodas Hashem serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the humility and the patience of Hillel brought us under the wings of the Shechina. The Gemara now switches gears and returns to a topic which we had discussed much earlier when we were discussing Sefer Koheles yesterday in the Daf, and that the final pasuk in Koheles says that the most important thing in the world is the fear of heaven, the importance of doing the right thing, even more important than Torah learning or anything like that. The Gemara will now quote a pasuk from Sefer Yeshaya. The Gemara will have two explanations of the psukim which both bring out this idea, and then the Gemara will have three mishalim, three analogies to bring this idea out further. So first, the pasuk from Sefer Yeshaya says as follows: V'hoya emunas itecha choisen Yeshua's chachma v'das, and then it ends off Yiras Hashem hi'etzaros. So first it refers to emunas, which is faith, itecha, of your time, chaysin, your strength, yeshuas, of your salvation, chachma v'das is wisdom and knowledge. The stability of your time and the strength of salvation is wisdom and knowledge. And then it ends off and it says, Yiras Hashem hi etzari. So we have 6 things here, and at the end we say that the treasure is fear of heaven. So what are these 6 things? So first, Rish Lakish says the 6 things are the 6 orders of Mishnah. Emunah refers to Seder Zrayim because a person has to have faith that what he's planting will grow. Itacha refers to Seder Moed because it discusses the times. Itacha means your times, the various times which come upon a person throughout the year. Chaysin is like from the word Yochsin, so it refers to Seder Nashim because it refers to man's hereditary traits and his inheritances, which go through the women. Yeshua is your salvation. That refers to Nezikin, which is about money and damages, because by learning those halachas one can save himself from expenses and from hurting others. And the last 2, Chachma refers to Seder Kachim, which is all the halachas of Karbanis, which is called Chachma, and the Das is knowledge, refers to Seder Taharos, which is a higher level of understanding even than Chachma. So all these 6 orders of Mishnayos, the 6 Siddharm of learning, at the end of all of them it says, but the most important thing, the storehouse is Yiras Hashem, the fear of God. Now, second explanation of this is the 6 things don't refer to the 6 orders of Mishnayos. They refer to the 6 questions they ask a person when he comes up to Shemayim after his time on earth. First of all, they ask him, did you conduct your business transactions faithfully? Then they say, did you set aside itim, times, for a Torah study? Then they say, did you engage in procreation? Did you reproduce? Did you do the mitzvah of Pri Verivya? Next, the piece of Yeshua. Did you hope and wait for Mashiach to come? Next, did you pilpalta b'chachma? Did you delve deeply into wisdom? And last of all, hevanta davar mitech davar, did you learn how to apply one concept in the Torah to another thing and make inferences from one area to another? These are the 6 things referred to in the Psukim. And in all these things, Yiras Hashem Yitzharai. If a person had fear of heaven, so then his judgment is favorable. And if he didn't, then even if he did all those 6 things, his judgment will unfortunately not be favorable. Okay, now the Gemara has 3 mishalim, 3 analogies. Analogy number 1 of a person who has Torah but he doesn't have fear of heaven is to a person who had a messenger and he said, do me a favor, go bring a huge amount, a core of wheat to store in the attic. So he brought it up there and he stored it, and the householder said to him, did you put in preservatives? Did you put in a kav of chumtan, which is a very salty earth, to preserve the wheat so it shouldn't get infested? So the guy said no. So he said, well, it would have been better that you had not brought it up in the first place. The same thing applies to Torah learning. If you're going to learn and not have Yiras Hashem, then your Torah learning will be lost, and it's a waste of time. Now, tangential to this, the Gemara says that somebody who sells a core of grain should mix in a kav of chumtan, and it's not considered defrauding the owner that it's not fully grain, because the chumtan is needed to preserve the grain. Second mashal, the Gemara says, Rabbi Rav Huna says, anybody who has acquired a Torah for himself, but he has not acquired Yiras Shamayim, fear of heaven, he's like a treasurer who was given the keys to the inner room, but not given the keys to the outer room. Because there's no point in that, because you will never be able to get to the state of doing the mitzvahs and all that if you do not have the basics, which is fear of heaven, even if you know all the halachos. Rav Yanai said it's like somebody who doesn't own a chutzner, doesn't own a courtyard, but he does make himself a gate for the yard. There's no point in having the gate to get in if you don't have the yard in which you can place the gate. Now Rabbi Yehuda says HaKadosh Baruch Hu only created the world so that people should stand in awe of him with Yiras Hashem, as it says, V'alekim asa, Hashem created, she'yira mofanav, that they should be in fear or in awe of him. The Gemara now continues along this theme by quoting another incident. The Gemara says that Rabbi Simon and Rabbi Lazar were once sitting together, and Rabbi Yaakov Bracha walked by. And they said to each other, let's stand up before him. But they gave different reasons. One said because he's a great Talmid Chacham, and one said because he's a big Yarei Chet, he's afraid of doing Averis, he's very much in fear of that. So each one had a different reason that they considered to be more important. So the Gemara would like to know which one was which. Who was the one that considered the fear of sin to be more important. The Gemara says, I believe that was Rabbi Elazar, because Rabbi Yechonah once said the name of Rabbi Elazar, the only thing that Hashem has in the world these days is the fear of the heaven at all. Like it says, V'ata Yisrael Ma'ashem Le'kecha Shalom Me'imach Ki'im Li'yira Hashem Le'kecha. Yisrael, what does Hashem ask of you? Only to fear Hashem your God. It also says, Hein Yiras Hashem Hi Chachma. Hein, which means behold, the fear of God, that is wisdom. The Gemara says, Hein is a Greek number 1. And it means to say that the first most important thing is fear of heaven. So since it was said in the name of Rabbi Elazar, he was the one who considers fear of God to be more important even than the Torah scholarship, and the Gemara accepts this as a conclusive proof that he's the one who said that. Now we had discussed earlier that the Chachamim wanted to hide Sefer Koheles because of some difficulties in its psukim. The Gemara now brings another one. The pasuk says, "Al tirsha harbe." Do not be too much of a rasha. So Rav Ula said, "What do you mean? You shouldn't be too much of a rasha? A small rasha you're allowed to be?" So the verse says, "No, it means like this: somebody who did an avera should not get depressed and do more averas and say, well, I'm lost anyway." Then the analogy is somebody who has eaten garlic and his breath smells. So there's not a reason to go eat more garlic and have your breath smell worse. So therefore a person should not do that. Now in a related subject, the Gemara says that Rav Ula said, what is the meaning of the pasuk in Tehillim that talks about the fact that Rishayim, the wicked, all seem unconcerned, they seem healthy, they seem okay, their lives are simple. The pasuk says, "Ein chatzubos l'maisam uvari ulam." There are no ties that tie them in their death, and their strength is strong. They don't seem to care. So the Gemara explains that Hashem is saying in these psukim that not only are the wicked not fearful about the fact that they're going to die, but they just keep on going, confident, as if nothing's ever going to happen to them. So the Gemara says that Rabbah said a similar thing on the pasuk V'zeh Darkam Kesel Lamay. This is their way; it's their mistake. The Rabbah said it's not that the Rishayim, the wicked people, don't know that they're going to die. They know they're going to die, and they talk about it all the time. But for some reason that does not connect to them that they have a responsibility to act properly. It's like they have fat over their kidneys where they make their decisions. That's what they think with. You may think, the Gemara says, that they've forgotten that they're going to die one day, but it's not true, because they say, Achareihem b'fiyam yirtzu sela. They always talk about the end. And it doesn't seem, they know that the end is coming, but it just doesn't seem to connect to them. It does not translate for them into more appropriate behavior. This is the end of the Agadata section of the Daf. From here until the next Mishnah, the Gemara will discuss the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, which we learned in the Mishnah before. Now, Rabbi Yossi said as follows. We're discussing putting out a candle, and Rabbi Yossi had said that of the 3 reasons which we had, which you might put a candle out, either to save the oil, or to save the lamp from cracking, or to save the wick. So Rabbi Yossi had said that to save the oil, to save the lamp, that's only an Isser D'Rabbanan. It's not an Isser D'Oraisa. But to save the wick, that's an Isser D'Oraisa. The Gemara wants to know why. How do you understand this? And this again takes us back to the old machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon about something called Malacha She'ein Tzricha L'Gufa. Again, Malacha She'ein Tzricha L'Gufa means that you perform a malacha, you perform a forbidden action on Shabbos, but not for the purpose that it was performed in the building of the Mishkan. So putting out a fire, putting out a candle in the building of the Mishkan was only performed either to make coal or to make a wick. If it was done to save something, that's not the reason it was performed in the Mishkan. And what is the halacha of a malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa? Again, something which is performed for the wrong reason, not the reason that it was performed in the Mishkan. So Rabbi Yehuda says it's an Isser D'Oraisa anyway, it doesn't make a difference. Rabbi Shimon says it's only an Isser D'Rabbanan. So the Gemara over here is trying to understand Rabbi Yossi. Who does Rabbi Yossi hold like? If he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, so then all these cases should have been Isser D'Oraisa. They are all, it makes no difference what the reason that you're doing it is, according to Rabbi Yehuda. It's an Isser D'Oraisa in all situations. If it's according to Rabbi Shimon, so then none of these are the reason that fires were put out in the Mishkan, not to save the wick, not to save the oil, not to save the candle, not to save the cup that the oil's in. So you should be only an Isser D'Rabbanan in all of them. What is the reason that Rabbi Yossi says no? In order to save the wick is an Isser D'Oraisa. So the Gemara has 2 suggestions. First one says that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. The second one says that he holds like Rabbi Shimon. So the first version is that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. If he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, how come in the case where he's trying to save the wick, it's an Isser D'Oraisa, but if he wants to save the oil or save the candle, it's only an Isser D'Rabbanan. So the Gemara says there's another factor here which makes it possibly an Isser D'Rabbanan, and that is that the concept of that all malachos have to be performed for a constructive purpose. The halacha is that any malacha is only an Isser D'Oraisa if it's done constructively, if you're creating something by doing the malacha. If you're just destroying, if you're just damaging, it's not an Isser D'Oraisa. Now, the classic example of this is the malacha of Seiser, which is destroying, if you knock down a wall. So how could that possibly be an Isser D'Oraisa? So the Gemara says it's only going to be an Isser D'Oraisa if you're destroying it in order to rebuild it in a better way. That means that you're obviously rebuilding it in the same spot. If you're destroying the wall because you plan on using the bricks to build somewhere else, then this act is not called constructive. You're not going to rebuild this wall better. You're going to use the bricks somewhere else. But this wall is being destroyed, so it's destructive. So therefore, the only way in which destroying can be considered to be constructive is if you're planning to rebuild in the same spot. If you're just planning to use the bricks, so that's called destructive. So now, Rabbi Yossi says, if you're putting out a candle, so you're destroying the candle, what would be constructive use? Constructive use would be as if you plan on relighting this exact same wick with a bigger, better, more improved fire. Therefore, if you're doing it in order to save the wick, it's an Isser D'Oraisa. That's constructive. However, if you're just doing it to save the oil or to save the cup, that means you intend to use it for a different fire somewhere else. It's considered to be a different place. The place of the fire is the wick. The oil, the cup, that's a different place, and that counts as you want to use the materials for something else. That's not called constructive. That's called destructive, just like using the bricks from a wall you smash is not called smashing constructively, it's called smashing destructively. Therefore, it's only an Isser D'Rabbanan. Nothing more challenges over here. The more says, hold on a second. Okay, I like your explanation in it, Rabbi Yossi, but this whole idea that that smashing a wall is only called constructive if you plan to rebuild in the same spot, I have a problem with that, because we all the malachas are learned out of the Mishkan, and when the Mishkan was taken apart, when it was destroyed, as it were, it wasn't to rebuild it in the same spot, it was to rebuild it somewhere else. They moved camp and rebuilt it someplace else. So how could you tell me that rebuilding somewhere else is called a destructive use and it's not an Isser D'Oraisa? The whole definition of the Isser of destroying was in the Mishkan, where it was being rebuilt somewhere else. So the Gemara answers no. In the Mishkan, it was considered as if it was being rebuilt in the same spot. Because think about it. Did the Jews care where they were? Did they want to rebuild it somewhere else? They want to use the pieces of the Mishkan to build a different Mishkan someplace else? That's not what they wanted to do. Hashem told them, now camp here. Then he said, now camp here. So they had to take the Mishkan apart in order to rebuild it in the same spot as far as they were concerned. It wasn't the same spot, but their concern was only the spot that Hashem said. So as far as they were concerned, it was the same spot. It was rebuilding it in the spot which was now the place that Hashem said it should be. It wasn't like they wanted to use the pieces. Okay, now the Gemara offers another explanation of Rabbi Yossi's opinion. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yossi really holds like Rabbi Shimon, and therefore putting out any fire for a purpose other than making a new wick scorched or making coal out of it is called malacha shenitzich l'gufa and still an Isser D'Rabbanan. However, where it says that you're chayev if you do it in order for the wick, to make the wick, to save the wick, it's talking about where you just lit the wick for the first time and you're actually scorching it now to make it into a workable wick in the first place. And therefore it is the purpose that was performed in the Mishkan. The Gemara even proves that this is what it means. If you read the Mishnah carefully, it doesn't say that you are saving the wick because it has been made into charcoal and you are saving the wick. It says because you are making it into charcoal, meaning you are making it into a functional wick by doing this for the first time. Now we get to the next Mishnah, which says that there are 3 transgressions, 3 averos, which cause women to die in childbirth. And these are the 3 special mitzvahs of women, and they are nida, the separation of challah, that's taking a piece off from the dough to give to the Kohen, and lighting Shabbos candles, which is why this Mishnah appears here. So the Gemara says, why these 3 things? So Rabbi Yitzchak says, well, Nida I can understand. If she didn't keep those halachos, so she made a mistake with her womb. Nida refers to the menstrual flows. And therefore she's also struck with the time at which her womb is vulnerable, which is her childbirth. Then the Gemara says, okay, what about challah and lighting Shabbos candles? Why is that so important? So the Gemara brings a drasha again, which explains all 3. The Gemara says, a certain Galilean said to Rav Chizda, I gave you blood, which keeps your soul in you, and I gave you halachas pertaining to blood, which is hilchos nida. If you don't keep that, I take back my blood, and that takes your life. I called you first. Kal Yisrael is called the first. And I gave you the mitzvah of challah, which is called the first of the bread. If you don't do the mitzvah of challah, I take away your designation of first, and your soul goes along with it. Also, I have given you the mitzvah of Shabbos candles, and I have given you a neshama, which is called a candle. You don't take care of the mitzvah of candles, I'll take back your Shabbos, I'll take back your soul, which is your candle. Now, we will stop here at the end of the daf. The Gemara in tomorrow's daf will explain why this refers to childbirth and how it applies to men.